Okay.
There we go. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, lovely people. This is Marie Alessi with yet another Upspiral Grief interview. And today I was so pumped. I was really looking forward to doing this with you, Sarah. I have the honor to introduce you to Sarah Choujounian. Oh my God, this is one of the craziest surnames for me to get out. I just practiced it beforehand and I still stuffed it up. Sarah, I'm so grateful that you came here today. You are coming all the way from Canada, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
please do us the honor, introduce yourself to the group, because we just try to figure out how we connected. We somehow connected on Facebook. It's been quite a few years now. And I can't wait to get into our interview here, but please do us the honor, introduce yourself to our audience. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So as you said, my name is Sarah Choujounian. I've been a nurse
You
since
said it so much nicer.
I'm used to it.
Sorry.
I've been a nurse since 2004, but I think, Marie, we met because I had founded Lighting Up Dark Corners in 2018 at the end, and I know I was online, and I think that's how we connected somehow. But a little bit of my story, I guess, of why I founded Lighting Up Dark Corners, how I got to doing all this healing work. So I have a lot of trauma in my past. And so, you know, I have incest. I was married to someone who was very abusive, so domestic violence victim. I was on the streets for a while, so a lot of I've been raped there. So, you know, I used to beg on the streets, a lot of drugs and alcohol most of my life. And so I struggled throughout life, although I, you know, managed to keep going. I became a mother when I was 18. My first child, I married someone who was 15 years older than me. So I was 18, he was 32. He was supposedly a refugee. I was going to save him. He was going to love me forever. And my plan didn't really go as planned. He was deported. I followed him there. You know, it was 12 years of just trying to get his papers. And within that 12 years, I had 3 kids. And when I turned
Followed
20,
him there, we're talking about Africa, is that right?
I went to Nigeria. For a while. And then there was no Canadian embassy at the time in Nigeria because it's very corrupt. And so we moved to France for a year. And I sponsored him from there. And because it was taking a lot of time, he sent me back to live with his brothers here in Toronto. And then that was like 5 years without him, where we were waiting for him to come back. Obviously, he wasn't a real refugee. So they were like onto him. He came back illegally. At that point, I had 1 child. He came back illegally. I got pregnant right away. And we tried to get his papers from within the country. And I had another child not too long after that and realized that he was really abusive. I was 28 and I was tired of it. And I think that was where I kind of started to stand up for myself and decided that I realized that the abuse was affecting my kids. And that's when, you know, my parents were separated and weren't together, and my dad wasn't around as I wished he was. And so I wanted to make sure that my kids had that family unit, you know, complete family unit, no matter what the cost was to me. But then at some point I realized, oh my God, like this is affecting my kids, and my kids are going to marry someone like this. And so, you know, he literally almost strangled me to death in front of my 2-year-old and my 1-year-old. And so that's when I decided that, and my then 10-year-old, my eldest, told me, why are you staying with him? I want to run away. And it just clicked in my head, like, oh my God, like I'm staying for them, and this is bad for them. Within a month, I was gone. I left. You know, and it was very scary because he had threatened to kill me if I annoyed him. And so that was the start of me starting to slowly stand up for myself. This was in 2008. So it's been a long journey. since.
Can
And
I just pause you there for 1 second, Sarah? Like when you said, you know, your eldest daughter was 10, and it's just so incredibly beautiful for her with, you know, such a pure heart. They don't overthink things. They just feel. They just feel what's going on is not right. And for her to point that out, and for you to then go like, you know, oh, it clicked. I need to get out of here. How was he actually with your children, with your daughters? Was he abusive towards them as well, or just under huge quotation marks to you in front of them?
he was abusive to my eldest. So when the younger ones were 1 and 2, he was very affectionate and not really abusive at that point. Once they seemed to reach an age where they can understand, like 4 or 5, I remember one of my kids, 5 years old, not wanting to eat a piece of chicken and getting slapped in the face. So, you know, that's when I was like, no, this is not going to work. So I left, and it was very scary because he had threatened me that if I annoyed him, he would be in my grave. But at that point, it was like over my dead body. And so I left, and it was very difficult. I was 28. I struggled with addictions. So when I was with him, I was able to completely stop everything because he didn't want me to do it. And I wanted that family unit so bad that I was able to overcome it. But when I was on my own, I fell right back. So I knew I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot of weed. And I was like 28 with 3 kids. And I was like, wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it. But I did. I worked 60 hours. And I made it work, and we went through a very difficult, I wanted it to be like a clean divorce, like no issues, you know, and he didn't want that. And so he brought me to court and asking for spousal support. And so lying too, he did a lot of fraud. And so he had more money than I did. He did all kinds of things, but he was trying to, you know, make me, you know, go back to him and become submissive again, which didn't work. And, you know, it was very difficult 3 years in court. I struggled on top of being alone, taking care of my 3 kids. I was paying lawyers. But in the end, it turned against him, and we got a judge that was like, "What are you doing? This young lady is taking care of your kids," and so it turned around against them. And big blessing in disguise, he decided to leave because he didn't want to pay. And you know, he tried to make the kids think that he was getting deported because of me again. But we found out that wasn't true. He just didn't want to pay, and he's left since 2013. He hasn't been here, which is
so there's no more contact.
No.
I just want to read something quickly to you. I didn't want to interrupt you. Thank you, Adrian. Adrian is a beautiful person that I do ask the expert interviews with once a month, and he's watching live now, and he said so much work needs to be done in this space with men and couples. Yeah, I totally agree, Adrian, you know, and I just so love that you're here, Sarah, talking openly about this, because there's so many that do live in this abusive relationship and do not have the support or the inner strength to actually stand up. And for your daughter at 10 years age to stand up and go like, "Mom, we need to get out of here. This is incredible." So how many years are we talking of that moment where your daughter said that to when he actually left?
About 5 years. Wow. I had left already. I left in 2008, and he left the country in 2013.
Wow.
Yes.
5 years. It's incredible. Sarah, I met you first, and I want to talk about this as well, what you did with it. But I still remember when I first met you, you were still on such a different journey. You know, you were still in this whole finding ways to deal with this. And I remember when I first watched you, how you started like full on working out, boxing, doing like really working so hard on your body, like literally coming clean, getting away from the addiction, and really this wholeheartedly this urge to say yes to life and change something for you, and working through addiction patterns and the PTSD that you were left with through everything that you've experienced in your childhood in this domestic violence situation. And I also know that we talked about the loss of your cousin at some stage, because that was a really big impact for you. Can you share a little bit about that? Because I know that you and your cousin were extremely close, and there was, a lot of support and love coming from that end as well.
I actually have
and then the grief, of course.
Yes, I actually have a cool story about that. Well, you know what I mean. So yeah, me and he was my cousin, but we grew up as brother and sisters. We never referred to each other as cousins. We were very close, like soulmates. We dreamed, both of us, to save the world. We both had pain. We can feel the pain of the world when we were very young. So we were extremely close, and we were always living together. And when I was 12 years old, his mother moved to Georgia, so in the United States. And it was very difficult. The separation was so difficult. The whole year I was in such a so depressed. I didn't want to do anything anymore. My parents decided to send me to Georgia. And so I stayed there for a year with him, but his mother was actually even more neglectful than my parents. And so I was sexually abused again there. And, she couldn't handle me and was becoming physically abusive. So I had to leave, and my cousin didn't want to stay there alone with her. But we had no choice. And I had this ring on my finger. And I gave him this ring and said, "I'm always with you." And so he was, I would say, when I gave him the ring, he must have been 14. He wore the ring and never took it off. And he passed away in a car accident, drinking and driving, when he was 24. And the ring was taken off of him and sent back to me. Everybody knew this is like Sarah's ring.
I just had chills. Oh my God.
Yes. So the ring was sent back to me, and it's like my most important belonging that I have. And I wore it for a while, and I gained.
Are you wearing it?
Yes.
Is that
yes. Yes. So
wow.
There's a big good story. Like, I think your viewers will like this. And so, at some point I couldn't wear it anymore because I gained weight. And I took it off. But, really, when the pandemic hit, it was really difficult for me. I felt abused, oppressed, all these things that I had worked on. I was very triggered, were coming back. I worked in a nursing home, so I could see my residents were being neglected. And, I facilitated groups, mental health, people were deteriorating, suicidal overdoses. So I was in a really bad place because I knew that it was wrong, but I wasn't speaking out. And I had healed because I was standing in my truth. And here I was disaligning again, and I was sliding again. And someone reminded me, like, don't you have something like to ground you? And, there was nothing that could ground me. Your viewers don't know, but I was the first nurse to speak out at a rally here against the lockdowns in Canada. And I was fired.
I remember that. Oh my God.
Yeah, defamed internationally, called domestic terrorists. So we had like hundreds of death threats come at us. The RCMP came at my door. And so I felt really unsafe. And, even going outside these days, some people recognize me sometimes, and sometimes they don't like me. And so I really didn't feel safe. And I was like, someone's going to kill me. And, my kids, what are they going to do to my kids? And I would become distressed. And so, and then I was reminded of this and my ring. And so I started wearing it all the time as a grounding tool, because no matter how hard it gets for me, we still get threats. Like right now, I'm being told I need like $250,000 to continue court cases. Like there's always it just never ends. People are after me. Like it's just been 3 years and it's still going on. So I was always scared, but it reminds me, when he died, he had a daughter. She's still alive. She's doing great. And I wondered, oh my God, what's going to happen to her? How is she going to live? And I saw her, life goes on. She went to school. Now she's working. She has a child. So I realized, she has her own journey. And, people adapt to things, right? of course she has her own
Yeah.
coping mechanisms and things like that.
Mm.
But so I wear this so that when I'm scared that something's going to happen to me, it reminds me, what's the worst that can happen? Well,
Yeah.
he's somewhere, who knows, in the universe, or I'm sure he's okay. And so is his daughter. She has her own journey. So it reminds me that no matter what happens to me, when I'm in these times where, I'm so worried, are they going to put me in jail? My kids are, are they going to go after my kids? I'm reminded that my kids have their own journey and they will go through whatever they need to go through. And they'll be okay too, no matter what. So I wear this as a grounding tool, and I carry him with me in my heart all the time. And like I said, I'm in really difficult court battles right now. And I just bring him with me, and I feel him with me. I make him live within me. And so this is how I grieve it, right? I just bring his memory with me everywhere.
This is such a beautiful and incredible story because, I knew the background about let's call him your brother's passing. And it's just so beautiful, the bond that you two had, and that this still lives on and grounds you to today, just knowing that he's with you. And I'm absolutely certain he is. I would like to go back a little bit to what you said, because you sort of brushed over, and it just shows how far you have come on your journey when you just say that in one sentence, where as a sole parent myself, I know how much work it takes to work through that, to work through the fears, to come through to that mindset and to this inner knowing that no matter what, my kids will be okay. And you just said that in one sentence and carried on. I'm like, whoa, because I know how much it takes to come to that. I know the fears that I had, not even being in a situation where I am in a legal battle, where I have, hundreds and thousands of people that might be of a completely different political background, opinion, whatever. And we had a bit of a chat before, and I said, I don't want to go too much into the political. However, it is quite, a massive, intense reality for you right now. And for you to go through that, to stand up for something that you so strongly believe in, and to choose that path with everything that you've already gone through, and you've gone through a lot. I was just sitting there watching you from afar in absolute awe, and watching you transform and watching you make decisions in life that have brought you to such a healthy mindset, character, personality, mom. And I literally wholeheartedly admire you, and that is an absolute understatement. I have no words to say to you how much I admire the journey that you've been on. You are so unbelievable, and with everything that you have under your belt in experience and in trauma, to stand strong in what you believe in as a sole parent, and also with the business or the movement that you have created. I don't know what you call it, the lightening up dark corners. Just before we went live, I said to you, what's that lighthouse behind you? Because I often talk about, Rob's sentence, if anything would ever happen to me. And that was our theory talk that we had a couple of years before he passed. And neither of us knew that it would happen, but we had this chat, and he said, if anything ever happened to me, I would want you to take the boys and create the happiest life possible. And that sentence to me became my lighthouse in the darkness. So when I see lighthouses, I instantly, it has such a deep meaning for me. And I know it has for you too. So I'd like to share a little bit, or I'd like you to share a little bit about that. It's quite obvious, I think, with the story that you shared, where it came from, but how did you create what you do now? And can you share a little bit about the programs that you offer there? Because I think it's phenomenal what you've created.
Okay, great. I'll try to do it like in a real fast thing. So, because it all started
please.
It started from a big burden. So in 2017, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and I was crippled. I literally couldn't get out of bed. And it was 2 years of like every medical exam or lab that you can think of, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They thought I had rheumatoid arthritis, I had bladder problems, had severe fatigue. I couldn't hold my arms up anymore. I was in bed, tired, laying down. I was in so much pain, so much nerve pain. I had sciatic nerve issues. I was feeling bugs crawling on me. My memory was going. I was becoming unstable, off balance. My eyesight was weird. I couldn't swallow. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. They were like, maybe it's in your head. And so I started doing my own research and found out that about fibromyalgia. I was diagnosed around the same time. And that how fibromyalgia is all about toxicity. Toxicity is anything, food, water, air. It's in the medications, chemicals, things that we put on our skin, but also like anything that puts the fight or flight response into action, right? And so anything that stresses the body. So something that really stresses the body that people don't realize is unresolved trauma or emotion.
I just wanted to say, so it's emotion and physical,
Absolutely. Fibromyalgia is somatic illness. So usually the emotional part is the big part, and everything else that you do, like the drinking and stuff, comes from this root cause. So you need to go to that root cause. And here in Canada, fibromyalgia is known to be a long-term disability, and they give you a pill for everything. So they wanted to put me on painkillers. They wanted to put me on sleeping pills. They wanted to give me hormones. And so I was like, this is just more toxicity. And people don't know, they take these pills, they feel better for a minute, and then they become tolerant and they higher doses. And at some point you can't get a higher
spiral
dose.
from there.
And then you haven't gone to the root cause of the problem. And so it does become a disability. I can't believe it becoming worse than it was, because I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't work. So I hit rock bottom. And so I decided that I knew that I wasn't going to go with the medical industry. That's how I started doubting the medical industry. I started looking more into what was going on. But I decided to get help for my trauma, and I joined a support group for adult survivors of sexual abuse. And there I learned that I wasn't alone, but I also learned that everything I had gone through was normal for what I had been through. So all that shame I carried from all the things that happened to me afterwards kind of shed.
That must have been such a relief.
Yes. And so I was able to then start accepting myself and forgiving myself, and therefore start taking care of myself and learning to love myself. So I became sober very quickly after that. I started going to the gym. Like you said, that's probably around the time we met. I lost 60 pounds. I started eating organic, taking supplements. But really, the most important thing I did is that I stood in my truth. So a lot of us are living a lie that we tell ourselves to protect ourselves from the truth. So I stopped doing that. And I went to all those dark corners and I looked at them. For example, I was always known to be the troublemaker. So it was always my fault. But as I learned things about trauma and things like that, I realized, wait a minute, my parents didn't take care of me. It was normal for me to act this way, because of emotional neglect, physical abuse, sexual abuse. And so I kind of put the blame back where it belonged, which is very difficult to do. But from then on, it's always been standing in my truth. And I noticed anytime I start people pleasing or I disalign, like when I was working as a nurse during the pandemic and I stayed quiet because I knew I was going to get fired, and people were like, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get killed if we speak about this.
That's huge. That is huge.
I was quiet, but it came to the point where I was so disaligned and I was falling back, and I said, you know what? I don't care. I put faith over fear, and I decided to speak out, because I know that no matter what in this life, I do not ever want to live a lie again. And that's why this pandemic is making it so difficult.
I need to just pause you for 1 second here, because everything you say, you make it sound so easy, and we all know it's not. You're like, I just knew that wasn't good for me, that was toxic, so I just stopped that. And just even in that sentence alone, so I just stopped that, people will be sitting here going like, how? on earth
No,
did you
it was
do
the
that?
process.
How? Because you know that it's not good for you. You know that you need to look into the root cause. You know that you need healing. But there are people sitting there going like, I know all that too, but how on earth did you find the strength to stand up when you had, you know, the extra pounds, when you had the not functioning, not knowing how to get out of bed, when you had the extreme pain? Where on earth did you find the strength from? Because you've gone through so much trauma in your life that it would have been an easy way to just, you know, fall apart and just go like, I just literally have nothing left. I have no strength. And you were at that point. So where on earth did you find that strength from to turn everything around and go like, I need to do this?
Well, I think when I left my husband and we went through that court case and he ended up leaving, and I felt like, oh my God, I went through this and like I'm alive. It was very empowering for me. Remember, that was another time where I put faith over fear. I was like, he's gonna kill me. Come get the kids, but I'm doing it anyways because it's the right thing to do for my kids. I think for me, something very that people, you know, I had so much trauma. I stayed alive for my kids. There was so many times where I was like, I don't want to be here. But I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck. I have my kids here. I'm not leaving them here alone. And so I stayed alive for that. So I would say that's why I left. It was for them, for the best for them. And that made me a lot stronger. I find it incredible how, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, my whole life built me. It was made for this. But obviously, when I say it in a sentence, it didn't happen right away. There was many times where I people pleased and this and that. And slowly, I started not feeling good about it. And you know, trauma is all about anything that disconnects you, honestly. So taking an anxiety pill actually causes trauma because you're disconnecting from yourself. And healing is all about reconnecting. And as I healed, I really started to understand how to listen to my intuition, and listen to my gut. And when something goes against me, I know it's either that or I'm gonna drink again. So for me, it's really like that balance. Like, and my kids are so proud of me that I stopped. I mean, so it came to the point where nobody thought I would ever change. Like it's you know, and so and there's also a pride to it, right? I was like, oh, I can't fall back. I founded Lighting Up Dark Corners, and I was helping people. I started facilitating groups myself. And I started.
Are you still running that today?
Lighting Up Dark Corners?
Yes.
It's running more today than ever. So what happens is because back then when I founded it, I still had my 2 nursing jobs and I was busy. And when you have jobs and money coming in, you know, you kind of like focus on that. And I didn't have much time for Lighting Up Dark Corners. But God didn't, I'm not religious, but I now higher power, I really believe, because I feel like as I spoke out, things happened. I just can't explain. And my whole life brought me to this. There was no other way. Oh, where was I going with that?
Because I said, are you still running the programs? And it said, everything's been sort of leading up to now having to focus.
Exactly. And then, so, you know, I was like, I'm going to lose everything. What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? And I said, forget it. I'll figure that. I believe in my ability to adapt because I've already left with 3 kids at 28 and adapted quite well. And so I was like, this is the same kind of thing, right? I was like, this is the same kind of thing. I'm really scared, but everything you ever wanted is actually on the other side of fear. And so, I spoke out. I stayed aligned with myself. I spoke my truth. I lost my 2 jobs. And here comes all the right positioning. And because Canadian Frontline Nurses were creating a new healthcare paradigm by helping, empowering people to be active participants in their health, not patients where you're a victim. You are an active participant. When you want to heal,
I love it.
You can heal. We're here to educate and guide people. And so we founded this, and we're creating a new healthcare paradigm, and Lighting Up Dark Corner fits perfectly in this. It's the mental health part to help people. So I run programs. So now I run the program. I've created the programs. I have time, because I don't have those other two jobs. So I had the time to really finally create my programs. I'm running my programs. They are helping people. I am so proud of them. It's like satisfaction guaranteed. And, they're like 10-week support group programs, and they are not there to heal you. Support group is very important because you find out you're not alone and you make connections with people that are going through the same thing. Because you lose people, it's difficult. There's a lot of grieving when you're healing. Like you grieve your childhood, you grieve that your parents are not who you thought they were, you grieve so many things. But yeah, so I've now, because I've done what's right, God was like, forget these nursing jobs, you're doing this. And so now I run these programs, and I'm at the part where there's the heal program. So it's 10 weeks of giving people the tools and knowledge they need to start their healing journey. And once you have these tools and knowledge, you do it yourself, because therapy can be very helpful. But you need to have the tools and knowledge when you're alone. You're in therapy 1 hour a week, and you're not necessarily in therapy. Your subconscious is not running the same way. But healing happens in your when you bring your subconscious to awareness. So it's not when you're talking to someone, it's you really having to be aware of, mind connection with your body. And when you have trauma, it's very difficult to do that. So I give people the tools and knowledge to do that. And I have the RISE program afterwards, because people, when you're doing healing work, it's very difficult. So you need something to excite and inspire you at the same time. So I help people find their purpose and passion. And we create, literally, I have a step-by-step planning where we plan together how you're going to make your dreams happen. And so this is how I'm getting people to heal and live a life of purpose. So transcend that trauma into a service to humanity. And now I'm at the point where I'm creating a facilitator training so that people
I
can
just wanted to come to that. Thank you.
Yes, so I know I'm trying to go fast.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so yes. So the people that have finished the RISE program, some of them, their purpose was like, I want to help you. And so they're going to become facilitators. Yeah, and they're going to facilitate, and we're going to have these programs going on everywhere, all over the country, because you're now going to the root cause of the problem. All the mental schizophrenia, bipolar, personality disorders, it's all trauma. There's nothing you can't overcome. They give you a disorder, a diagnosis, because those are the coping mechanisms that you picked up, and they fit in this box, and so that they can give you a pill to numb you and make profit off of you, instead of showing you how to go to the root cause. So my programs, actually, I've run, I just started running them. It's almost a year now. And I have two of my participants are off their bipolar medications just with the 10-week program. Right?
Incredible.
And I have people that have been in therapy for decades that were like, oh my God, I've reconnected with my inner child. So I'm just really proud of it. So I want this program to run everywhere. And then, so now they're going to start running them in person everywhere. And it goes with like a therapy too. So I'm hooked in person. I do it with at a gym, and there's 1 hour box after. But we also offer it online too. It's cheaper and anybody can do. But the whole vision is that once I have these like facilitators everywhere, I'm going to start renting houses to run the programs, and those houses will be called lighthouses.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it. Sarah, we are a little bit over time already, but I said to you, don't worry if we are, because I really, really am so grateful, not just for what you do, but you came here, took the time to share about it. And I would really love it if, I know that you're in our group, if you would share links about your program, how people can find you, how people can connect with you, how people can find out more about how they can maybe participate in it, or maybe even become facilitators. So I actively invite you, please come share your links. And before we go, I just I just want to thank you. I think words are not even enough to thank you for what you have shared today, but for everything that you have done, you know, the work that you have gone through, the mom that you wear in all of that, the beautiful, beautiful shining example. I often use the title Mama Bear in Shining Armor, and I think it very much suits you. And
Yes.
I just want to really say again how much I am absolutely in awe of who you are, and having watched you over the past few years, I'm just absolutely stunned, really stunned by what you have created. And I can't wait to see, you know, the lighthouses spreading all over the country, all over the world. And before we go, is there anything that you would like to wrap this interview up with, where you're like, if there's just one message that you take away from today, then it is this?
It's stand in your truth. Do not be scared to look at the parts of you that you don't want to look at, and work on them and bring them to light. You will be whole. We need to be whole in this world. That's how we make the world a better place, is by being connected to our soul. You know, there's nothing wrong with an ego. It's all about balance. The ego was there to, you know, protect us. But it's great to get to know yourself and integrate it, and know that your ego is there in case you need it at any point in time, if your soul can't deal with it. But to find ways to really stay in integrity and stay connected to yourself. And you do that by not betraying yourself, by pleasing others. And it's very difficult because you lose people, right? But then as you lose those people, other kind of people come up, and you reach a different level of consciousness, and you become, you know, part of the solution in the world. Because right now we have a lot of
that in itself is incredible.
Children running in adult bodies, and that's why you see how people just comply without asking questions. You know, like everybody's allowed to do whatever they want, but I think they should know exactly what they're getting into. So standing in truth. But I just want to tell you, Marie, that before I spoke out, and still now, I love you so much. You were an inspiration to me. I read your book.
Wow.
As soon as it came out, I really looked
up to you.
I really looked up to you, and you were one of those people on my Facebook that I was inspired by, and still am. So I just thought you might want to hear that. And
thank you so much.
You're welcome. But and it's just the truth. It's just the truth. You helped me a lot. And I wanted to be like you, because you started running programs before me.
Wow.
I wasn't serious back then. Like, I wasn't doing it back then.
I had no idea. This is so beautiful for me to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Sarah,
you're outstanding.
I really, thank you. I love your beautiful final message. Stand in your truth. It is so simple, and yet not always easy at all, you know, and you have really done that. And you're an incredibly shining example for that. Thank you so much for being here today. And everyone who wants to connect with Sarah, we will be sharing the links and make sure that you have every opportunity, and to follow her on Instagram and whatever you want to share, we'll be doing that. So thank you so much for being here. Everybody else, thank you for watching. And this is Sarah and Marie signing off. Bye for now, everyone.
Love and light.
Thank you. Bye.